Writing for a magazine is such a powerful way to actually get published. Getting published in this day and age has many permutations. It doesn't always mean a book. And I found consistently in my career that it is actually articles in magazines that have brought me the most engagement and the most readers. So, as a writer or as somebody who wants to share their story, I really am going to encourage you to try and tighten your story into a tight 2,000 word format. We also call it a personal essay. Personal essay can be longer, 4,000 words. And what this is asking of you is to write either your entire story or an aspect of your story in a really round way that sums the whole thing up. Now, the difficulty of this is that it needs two elements to it. It needs your personal story, well, what actually happened, and it needs a little bit of a lesson. Format I like to use for writers is this. It happened to me. I fell off a cliff and learned to walk again. I got bitten by a shark and learned to face my fear. I sailed around the world using two surf skis and a mast made out of a telephone pole. So, what you're going to see about all of these examples I've given you is they're quite small. They're quite small moments of expertise in your life. They can be bigger moments of expertise. So it could be I was diagnosed with stage 4 terminal cancer and learned to trust my body. Okay, that's a bigger story. That's something you may want to write as a book. But the calling now is to write it in a tighter format. So when I've written it was I was in a month-long coma and learned that there's life in other worlds. So this is again my entire book being The Other Side. I took it and I tightened that into a magazine article. Now, from all the examples of that I've given you, what you're seeing is that the bulk of this is what happened. So there are three parts to this. There is the headline. Now, the headline is the invitation to the reader. Do you want to read about a coma? Do you want to read about a shark bite? Are you interested in sailing around the world? So if you're not, move on. And that's the basis of a magazine. So the headline of a magazine article is a call to your reader to say, hello, is this of interest to you? And it's quite explicit and deliberate. So we are not writing this for everybody. It's somebody interested in what we've got to say. The second part of a magazine article is just really the body copy. And the body copy is, well, what comes after the headline? You've got the eyeballs. Well, what are you going to do to draw them into the story? In these kinds of magazine articles, we go straight into the anecdote. So if I'm using the one I just used about my own story about being in a near-death experience and in a coma, I will begin with something like, I was 36 years old in the height of my career and running a huge magazine publishing company. Nothing was wrong. I was healthy as the next person when I just got a little tickle in my throat. 4 days later, I was in a coma in ICU on life support and fighting for my life. So can you see how quickly I've pulled the reader into the story? I'm now going to slow down a little bit and I'm going to tell them a little bit about it. I'm going to backfill. So in classic journalistic language, we call it the beginning hook, being the headline, and then the first part of the journalistic pyramid, who, where, why, what, when. Who are you? What's going on? Why is this happening? When did this happen? And where was it? So immediately I put all of those. I put my age, I put who I was, I put what was going on, and I didn't yet put the why. So the why we can delay. The rest of the article, because we're working with 2,000 words, is going to just slow down now and explain to the reader how I ended up in that coma, how you ended up on a surf ski sailing the Pacific, how this person ended up finding out they had stage 4 cancer, how another person decided to walk the Great Wall of China in flip-flops. Whatever the story you're writing may be, and notice some of them are light and some of them are heavy. So all we're doing once we've pulled the reader in, and we're doing a bit of exposition. This is what actually happened, right? You're just telling them what happened. And in that part of the article, well, you're going to use good storytelling techniques. This is not a journalistic article. You're not getting verified sources. You're not interviewing other people. But what you are using is you're using devices of storytelling. So you're going to ask yourself, who are the other characters? Am I using dialogue or direct speech, as we call it in journalism? And am I weaving a bit of a story? And that's really all you've got to do. You just got to tell the reader what happened. What happened with that cancer diagnosis? How did you feel? What did you do? Why was this happening in your life? The last part of an article or a personal narrative essay often brings the meaning or the lesson. So this happened, and what did you learn? So this is a point in the story in which you even pause and you go, I stood there walking away and I thought to myself, what had just gone on? What was I going to take away from it? How was I going to live my life with the diagnosis? What did I learn standing on that ocean with nobody around and a homemade raft? Um, what did I learn walking on that wall in flip-flops? So this is the point of the story in which we just want to make sense of it for the reader. And the lesson can be really simple. Something like, I learned to trust my body. I learned to say no to people. I learned to shift my health. I decided to give up drinking. I decided to leave my job. But we don't want to start with that. So we're pulling the reader in with this quite dramatic, fun event. We're just telling them what happened. We're engaging with them so they can relate to us. Often they're our age, right? Or maybe they've got our same health worry, or they've got our same desire to walk the Great Wall of China. So we're entertaining them, and then we're summarizing it all, we're leaving it with a lesson. And very, very, very often, that lesson is even in the headline of the article. So it could be, and this is one I've written from personal experience, I was diagnosed with cancer and I finally faced my fears. I had a near-death experience and I learned that there are people on the other side. Here's another example. I made $1 million before I was 21 and I learned that money does not make me happy. Okay, the third one is not my personal example. I wish I'd made $1 million by the time I was 21, and I'm pretty much sure money would make me happy. So that's not mine. So just to make it lighter, so I encourage all of you to write this. So to take your big story that's the whole book, be it the abuse, be it the narcissistic ex-husband, be it the addiction, be it whatever you've lived through, and make it one story, just one story. Get it out of the way. It's highly useful because when you're at the point of your writing journey, when you're going to start promoting your book, this is a critical thing that you're going to be sending off to magazines. Critical, it's going to have your story, it's going to have your face on it, it's going to have buy the book, which explains this. So it's a very important piece of writing I make all my writers do. And also that you can write a multitude of these. So your book may be about addiction. It may be about making or losing money. It may be about cancer. It may be about an illness. It may be about an eating disorder. There are very many aspects of the story that you can put into these 2,000 or 3,000 word articles. So give it a bash. I'm going to link to one of my descriptors with loads of examples. You've seen them everywhere. We see them in all the magazines. I changed my life. I left my career as accounting and became a florist at age 50. Whatever people did. It can be money, it can be sport, it can be health, it can be parenting, it can be parents getting older. So we love these stories in magazines, not just in print magazines, in blogs and online. So give it a bash. And don't just do it once. Again, the same as a book. This is something you work a little bit. You do your first version, your second version, your third version. Then you find a better way in. You find a better headline. You find a better lesson. You work it a little bit. And then maybe you come up with something that's powerful and that will be read by many people and hopefully serve them or at least make them laugh. Happy writing.